On the first day I moved into my new house, I noticed something a little off, specifically with the mirror. After working for 10 years, I had finally saved enough for a down payment and bought a house in the suburbs. It was well maintained and only needed a bit of cleaning and pest control before I could move in. Although the location wasn't very convenient, requiring a 2-bus ride to the nearest subway station, the price per square meter was much cheaper than in the city center. Anyway, a man in his 30s should have his own house. The mirror in question was situated above the bathroom sink. When standing in front of the sink, you could see your upper body in the mirror. But what exactly was wrong with this mirror? Every time I finished washing up and looked into the mirror, I noticed a barely perceptible distortion in my face. At night, while lying in bed, I could hear a whistling sound coming from the bathroom, like wind blowing through a small hole. After some investigation, I discovered that the sound was indeed coming from the mirror. Could there be a hidden camera behind it? At that time, I had been reading many articles about hidden cameras. Most hotels were covered with spy devices, especially pinhole cameras. Some hidden in TV set-top boxes, others in socket holes, lights, or even behind mirrors. When you're in the bathroom undressing, these cameras could be secretly recording your every move, making it hard to guard against. I decided to take down the mirror to check if there was a hidden camera behind it. The mirror was embedded in the wall, making it quite inconvenient to remove. However, after a careful inspection, I did find a small hole at the edge of the mirror. I took a toothpick from the dining table and poked it into the small hole, intending to see how deep it was. The toothpick went in only halfway before it stopped. I applied more pressure to the tip, and something strange happened. The mirror's surface seemed to ripple like water, as if disturbed by a breeze. What the heck was this? Some kind of effect. I couldn't help but reach out to touch the mirror. To my surprise, it wasn't the hard glass surface I expected, but something soft and elastic. What did it feel like? Exactly. It felt like a woman's breast. Smooth and soft. More accurately, it felt like gelatin. Jiggly, neither solid nor liquid. I pushed my entire hand into the gelatinous substance. What happened next sent a chill down my spine. Even though the surface of the mirror was rippling like water, it still reflected me, the bathroom, and the sink. But once my hand entered the mirror, it vanished into the reflected, illusory world. The scene was eerily reminiscent of Sadako crawling out of the TV. Terrified, I yanked my arm back, scrambled out of the bathroom, and bolted into the bedroom, diving under the covers. Protect me! Blanket, I thought, pulling the covers over my head. My mind raced. Was I dreaming? This could be easily tested. I pinched each of my 8 abdominal muscles one by one, and each pinch hurt, proving I wasn't dreaming. So, was there something wrong with the mirror, or was I hallucinating? Or could it be a supernatural event? Once I calmed down, I ruled out the supernatural. After all, I was a graduate student in a STEM field. How could I believe in something as fantastical as Sadako? But the scene of my hand entering the mirror was undeniably similar. Sadako came from the illusory world into the real world, whereas I went from the real world into the illusory world. Either way, I had to investigate further. I turned on all the lights in the house, put on a raincoat, donned a helmet, and armed myself with a frying pan. Returning to the bathroom, I saw the toothpick still lodged in the small hole, and the mirror was as calm as ever. I reached out to touch the mirror again, and ripples appeared once more. Taking a deep breath, I continued to push my hand through. As my entire hand entered the mirror, it immediately appeared in the reflected virtual space. I carefully felt around, and neither my hand nor my arm encountered any resistance. Pressing closer to the mirror, I extended most of my arm inside. At this point, my hand touched the toothbrush in the mirror. A sudden idea struck me, and I grabbed the toothbrush, pulling my arm back out. Comparing the two toothbrushes, they were identical. I even tried brushing my teeth with the mirror toothbrush. It worked just as well as the original. The only difference was that the mirror now lacked a toothbrush. The mirror's surface was calm again, and apart from the missing toothbrush, everything seemed normal. Using the same method, I extracted the toothpaste, an automatic 720-degree shaver, men's exfoliating face wash from the mirror. I emptied the contents of the mirrored sink. In my real world, every item now had a duplicate. The scene was somewhat eerie. I tested all the items. They worked perfectly indistinguishable from the originals. Another idea came to me. I took a $100 bill from my pocket and placed it on the crowded sink. The mirrored me did the same on the empty sink. But when I tried to reach into the mirror, my hand hit the surface painfully. Why couldn't my hand go through? Was it because of the money? Was the mirror that intelligent? I circled the mirror, trying to figure out what was going on, and then I noticed that the toothpick had fallen out of the hole. Could that be the reason? I recalled that the strange sound had also occurred when I inserted the toothpick earlier. Picking up the toothpick, I inserted it back into the hole. Sure enough, the mirror rippled again, and my hand passed through effortlessly. I easily retrieved the $100 bill from the mirror. I pulled the toothpick out again, and the mirror returned to its solid, glassy state. So, the small hole was indeed the switch. After slapping myself several times to ensure I wasn't dreaming, I laughed out loud. I placed the 2 bills in front of the mirror again. But this time, the mirror didn't reflect the money. It seemed I couldn't double my money infinitely. No matter, I could go to the bank tomorrow and withdraw more money to double it. At least my savings could increase significantly. After spending half the night experimenting, I was exhausted. I held the 2 bills in my hand and drifted off to a blissful sleep. The next day, I withdrew all my savings from the bank, roughly $2,000, and then took another $2,000 from my magic mirror. Now I had $4,000. This felt amazing. I knew I couldn't squander the money carelessly. Once it was spent, it was gone. Better to save it in the bank and maybe invest in something. After all, you need to manage your finances for your finances to manage you. With $4,000 in my pocket, I headed straight for the bank. On the way, I passed an ice cream truck and a thought occurred to me. What if only I could see the items I took from the mirror? Better test it out. I randomly pointed at an ice cream on the menu and asked the vendor, "How much for an ice cream cone?" $5, he replied. "Do you accept a $100 bill?" I asked. The vendor didn't respond, just gave me a glare. I pretended to look at the menu and picked an ice cream. "That'll be $5. The vendor pointed at the menu. "Cash or card?" I pulled a bill from the outer layer of cash, which came from the mirror, and handed it to the vendor. He took the money, and I felt relieved, thinking the money was valid. But the vendor glanced at it and handed it back to me. "Give me another one." My heart skipped a beat. Why? Was there something wrong with the money? Confused, I reached into my bag, pulled out another bill, and handed it over. This time, the vendor didn't hand it back. Instead, he threw it on the ground, then pulled out an ice cream scoop from under the truck. "Buddy, what kind of trouble are you trying to start here?" The vendor snarled, his face darkening with anger. Why does he look so fierce? I wondered, my legs beginning to tremble. First, you ask if I take $100 bills, which I normally don't, but I decided to make an exception. Then you try to pass off fake money on me. "What kind of game are you playing?" the vendor growled, eyes narrowing in suspicion. Confused, I picked up the bill from the ground, my heart racing. How did he know it was fake? The vendor seemed to read my mind. "Take a closer look at your money." "Do you think I'm an idiot?" I scrutinized the bill, flipping it back and forth. Suddenly, a realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. "Oh, I don't need the ice cream anymore," I stammered, grabbing my bag and sprinting away. I didn't stop until I reached a public restroom, where I locked myself in a stall. Opening my bag, I grabbed a handful of the money from the mirror. Sure enough, all of it was the same. The money taken from the mirror was mirrored, reversed left to right. It made sense. When you extend your left hand in a mirror, your reflection shows the right hand. Everything reflected in the mirror is flipped, including numbers. A 2 in the mirror looks like a 5. The words on the bills from the mirror were all reversed. No wonder the ice cream vendor was so angry. Standing in the restroom stall, I was overcome with dread. If I had tried to deposit this money in the bank, at best they would have confiscated it, but more likely they would call the police. The consequences would be unimaginable. The money in the bag needs to be destroyed quickly. Simply throwing it down the toilet won't work. It'll clog the pipes. Shredding it and tossing it in the trash is also not an option. The janitors would find it. Maybe tying it to a rock and sinking it in a lake would work. No, it would just float back up in a few days. Burying it in a remote area isn't safe either. Someone walking their dog could dig it up. How about using a shredder, then sprinkling a little bit each time I cook, eating it, and letting my body digest it slowly before flushing it down the toilet? No, I have a sensitive throat and would vomit while eating it. Wait, I could just put it in the mirror, right? When I rushed back home and opened the mirror, I found out only my hand could pass through, not the money. I also discovered my clothes couldn't go through either. Since I'd always been wearing short sleeves, I hadn't noticed this before. I had to strip completely to crawl in naked. In the Mirror World's bathroom, everything felt so real. I even used the toilet there, and it was exactly like the real world. Then I opened the bathroom door in the Mirror World, and a strange scene unfolded before me. Only a small area beyond the door existed. The rest was just darkness. In other words, the world inside the mirror is only as large as the space reflected by the mirror from the real world. Essentially, the mirror's world consists only of the bathroom and a small area outside the door, exactly the area that the mirror can reflect. I crawled out of the mirror naked again, looking like something straight out of a horror movie. Maybe Sadako isn't a ghost, but just someone trapped in the world of the TV screen. But why isn't she naked? Anyway, why am I thinking about this? I should focus on the money problem. The money taken from the mirror is reversed and unusable. So other things from the mirror world are reversed too. This is easy to verify. I checked the face wash I took out earlier, and sure enough, the writing on it was reversed. So these items can't be sold secondhand. Using them myself isn't a problem though. So I decided to buy some electronic products I had been eyeing online. I bought a top-of-the-line Apple phone using my credit card, then took the replica out from the mirror. I returned to the original, feeling great about my plan. Unfortunately, the text on the phone was reversed, and looking at it for too long made me dizzy. Next, I bought a laptop, a robot vacuum, a tablet, and Svive. I ordered a bunch of electronics, but only the robot vacuum was somewhat usable. The others made me nauseous after a short while because of the reversed text. I then got a bunch of pots and pans and tried to sell the replicas at a low price. However, people saw the reversed logos and text, assumed they were defective, and offered extremely low prices. Most like I was selling scrap. Making money this way was incredibly tough. After a week of effort, I had only made a few $100. Lying in bed, I felt overwhelmed with sadness. Sadness is like an olive. After the sweetness comes the bitterness. Just then, my phone rang. It was someone from the company calling to inform me that I was being fired for skipping work for 3 days without any reason. Getting fired didn't bother me much. Jobs don't matter to me, neither good nor bad. After losing my job, I spent my days and nights lying around at home. Whenever I got hungry, I ordered takeout. I get 2 meals for the price of one, stretching my money by eating half now and half later. I spent about 2 weeks like this. One day, while eating, I noticed the bagel was particularly hard. As I chewed and my jaw ached, a sudden realization hit me. Many things in this world don't have a front or back, nor any logos, like bagel, fruits, wool, cotton, garlic, and gold. Gold retains its value, is widely traded, and has a high unit price. I have this quality where once I decide to do something, I do it immediately and with great determination. That very day, I bought some gold jewelry from a store, made copies using the mirror, and sold the replicas to small shops. In no time, I made tens of thousands of dollars. In the following month, I earned several million. With money, my confidence soared. I dressed well and drove nice cars. One day at a car dealership, I unexpectedly ran into my high school classmate, Sophia, who was now working as a saleswoman. I recognized her immediately. She hadn't changed much and was still as beautiful as ever. Back in the day, she had long hair, an oval face with rosy cheeks, perfectly arched eyebrows, clear and bright eyes, and incredibly long eyelashes. When she blinked, her eyelids moved in a way that felt like slow motion, making hearts flutter. Sophia had many admirers. Many boys from other classes would ask me to deliver gifts to her. She accepted them all, shared the food with me, and used the love letters as scrap paper. I had a crush on her but never confessed. I was too afraid of losing our friendship, especially since I felt so insignificant compared to her many suitors. One day, she transferred to another school because of her parents' job relocation, and I was filled with regret. In those days, before the internet became widespread, losing contact often meant losing someone forever. Sophia. I smiled as I stood in front of her. "Is that you?" She stared at me for a few seconds before smiling. "Oh, it's you." At that moment, she was dressed in professional attire, looking much the same as she did back then, though her eyes now held more depth and experience. "After almost 20 years, you're still as beautiful as ever." In my excitement, I blurted out my thoughts. Sophia playfully tapped my arm. When did you get so smooth with your words? It felt wonderful, like meeting an old friend after a long time. After she finished work, we went to a steakhouse. We ate and talked about our old classmates, teachers, and the fun times we had together. It seemed like old classmates always ended up reminiscing about school days. And once those stories ran out, the conversation would often stall. No matter how close we once were, after so many years, it could feel like there was a transparent wall between us, causing an awkward silence to rise from our feet and slowly envelop us, leaving our minds blank. But it wasn't like that with Sophia. We talked about our lives over the years, recent popular topics, and life in general. It felt like we had endless things to talk about. The more we talked, the more excited we became. We ordered some drinks and continued our lively conversation while eating. When we finally left the steakhouse, it was already 9 p.m. The city lights were dazzling and the streets were alive with activity. Sophia looked a bit tipsy, her steps unsteady. Supporting her by the shoulder, I asked, "Where do you live? Let's take my car." "Don't drink and drive," I said. Sophia gave me a playful look. "I know that. Didn't I call for a driver?" "Let's go to your place," she said. Sophia rested her head on my shoulder, and with a gentle tone, she said those 4 words that made my heart race and my chest feel warm. The soft breeze lightly brushed our faces, making it a truly enchanting evening. "Can we not stand in front of the air conditioner unit?" Sophia pouted at me, making a cute face. "When flowers bloom, you should pick them without delay. For if you wait, you may find yourself breaking empty branches with no flowers left." Couldn't resist and kissed her. The car drove slowly. Sophia and I sat in the back seat, our lips locked together as if glued, our tongues dancing. My hands roamed over her body, caressing her through her clothes under the cover of darkness. Our passion ignited in the car and blazed all the way to my bedroom. I couldn't tell if I was merging into her or she into me, nor how long we had been intertwined, feeling as if we could transform into celestial beings. Leaning against the pillow, I watched her carefully getting dressed. The room was dark, illuminated only by moonlight streaming through the window, casting a gentle glow on Sophia, making her look like she was wearing a delicate white gown. "You can't stay," I asked, filled with affection. "Actually, I need to tell you something. I'm married," she confessed. "I told my husband that I was having dinner with old classmates to get a few hours tonight." She paused. "You don't think less of me, do you?" My heart ached, but seeing her bathed in moonlight, it melted away. "Will you come back?" I asked. "Yes," she replied. "I'll be leaving now. Let me walk you out," I offered. "No, you should rest," she said, giving me a kiss before slinging her bag over her shoulder and leaving. Just as she stepped out of the room, she returned in a panic. "Oh no, I've lost my left earring. Help me find it, quickly." I glanced at her right ear, noticing a heart earring encircled with small diamonds. She continued searching frantically while urging me to help. "My husband brought it back from abroad. If he finds out it's lost, he'll definitely suspect something." I hurriedly started checking under the pillows and blankets. We turned the room upside down but couldn't find it. We even went down to the garage and thoroughly searched the car's back seat, but still came up empty. On the verge of tears, she looked at me desperately. I held out my hand. "Give me your other earring. I'll take another look around, and if I can't find it, we'll figure something out." She nodded and handed me her earring. I quickly ran back to the house, rushed into the bathroom, and activated the mirror. I retrieved an identical earring from inside. With the earring on, Sophia looked relieved and satisfied as she got into a taxi. She waved her fingers at me in a goodbye gesture. We met up many more times after that, each encounter draining me completely. It felt like the relationship was destined to end eventually, much like how vampires perish in sunlight. Knowing our affair was wrong and that it could end at any moment, I put my all into every meeting, treating each one as if it were the last. 2 months later, that final day came. "We shouldn't see each other anymore," Sophia said as she put on her black lace bra. Her back turned to me. She struggled with the clasp, her hands behind her back, fumbling with the hooks. I quickly sat up and gently helped her fasten it. Tears rolled down my cheeks without me even realizing it. "I love you so much," I said softly. I hugged her from behind, resting my head on her shoulder. Tears streamed down my face, dripping from my chin onto her chest, pooling in the hollows. I never thought a grown man could cry so easily. But in this moment, facing her imminent departure, I felt immense sorrow. All the pain I had endured over the past 30 years seemed to pour out in my tears. I had never loved a woman as much as I loved her, and I was willing to do anything to be with her. Love in this world is like a giant jar. No matter how well a fish can swim, it can't escape the jar unless it becomes a dish. "If there's a next life, can I be your wife?" she asked, stroking my hair. "Sophia, if science advances enough, would you be willing to clone yourself to stay with me?" I replied. "Are you out of your mind? Please answer me. Would you do it? All right, let's give it a try." I led her to the bathroom and used a toothpick to press into the small hole in the mirror. The surface rippled beautifully. "What kind of mirror is this? Where did you get it?" "It's so beautiful," she asked, mesmerized. Sophia's eyes lit up with curiosity as I began to undress. "Hey, are you planning to do it again?" she asked. "Sophia, wait a moment. I'm going to bring the other you out from the mirror. Don't be scared when you see it," I said, now down to my underwear. "Hold on. Are you feeling all right?" she asked, touching my forehead. "Just trust me," I replied. I kicked off my underwear, climbed onto the sink, and crawled into the mirror. Once inside, I grabbed the mirror's version of Sophia, ready to bring her out. Suddenly, the mirror's surface rippled, and the Sophia in my arms shifted to align perfectly with the Sophia outside. I saw the Sophia outside holding a toothpick, and the Sophia inside mimicked her actions. The mirror's switch was turned off. "So that's how it works," Sophia laughed. I panicked. "Quick, put the toothpick back in, or I won't be able to get out. Why should I let you out? Don't you love me anymore?" "I never loved you," she laughed again, revealing a sinister red tongue that sent chills down my spine. "Why do you keep coming to see me?" "Because you have money. I heard from colleagues that you bought that car for over $1 million without even negotiating the price. And I'll admit, the first time we slept together, I was a bit drunk and confused. But that night, after you helped me find my earring and I went home, I noticed that both earrings were exactly the same, which made me suspicious. Maybe you didn't know, but my earrings are one of a kind. They're a limited edition from abroad, and each one has a letter engraved on it. One has my name, and the other has my husband's. When I got home and took a shower, I saw that both earrings had my initials on them. That's when I knew something was off. That's why I continued seeing you, to find out what kind of treasure you were hiding. If I hadn't provoked you by suggesting a breakup today, I would never have discovered the secret of this mirror," she sneered. "You jerk!" I rushed at the mirror, only to slam my head against the glass, seeing stars. Grabbing the toilet plunger, I started jabbing it at the glass with all my strength, but it didn't budge, as if it were bulletproof. Refusing to give up, I kept pounding it with all my might. Sophia had already left the room, and the Sophia in the mirror walked out the door too. Dropping the plunger, I quickly opened the door in the mirror and chased after her, only to find myself crashing into an invisible wall, collapsing to the ground. I was trapped in this virtual space, betrayed by my own trust. Hours later, I awoke, cold and hungry. That wretch had taken my clothes from the floor, and naturally, the ones in the mirror were gone too. Luckily, I had stashed a towel in the cabinet. I quickly wrapped it around myself and crouched on the floor, trying to figure out what to do next. About an hour later, I heard footsteps outside. With nowhere to hide, I stood up, clutching the towel. Sophia returned, and she had brought a man with her. Simultaneously, a mirrored Sophia and a man appeared beside me. "What do you want?" I yelled at the figures outside the mirror. "What do you think?" she replied with a sinister grin. "Of course we're here to take your treasure," Sophia said, then turned to the man. "Honey, take this mirror home with us. We'll be rich." It was then that I noticed the man holding a toolbox. If they dismantled the mirror, I might be trapped inside forever. "No, don't. If you take it apart, it will break and lose its power," I shouted desperately. "Then you can stay here and die. Once you're gone, the mirror will be ours anyway," Sophia said coldly, before dragging the man away. For the next few days, they really didn't come back. I survived on tap water alone. Around the 7th day, I felt my life slipping away. Why the 7th day? Because I had read that a person can only survive about 7 days without food, just drinking water. In my final moments, I could barely hear my heart beating weakly. Suddenly, a thought struck me, and I forced myself to stay awake. I remembered how that ice cream vendor's legs trembled when he took out the ice cream scoop because I was standing next to a reflective surface that didn't show my reflection. I also recalled how I always unconsciously avoided mirrors when leaving the house. Just now, I noticed that my heart was beating on the right side of my chest, and the athlete's foot that used to be on my right foot was now on my left. My head throbbed with pain, as if I had forgotten something crucial, but I couldn't remember what it was. My consciousness grew fainter. I knew my time was almost up. Whatever I had forgotten didn't matter anymore. Sometimes, at the end of a person's life, they look back and realize they were just a shadow, a mere reflection of others. My heart grew calm. There was no more love or hate, no more joy or sorrow, no more colors or sounds. I exhaled my final breath